Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Khofifah aznel. Here, I will explain about the steps in the process of quantitative data analysis. Analyze and interpreting quantitative data. Statistics can be challenged. However, calculating statistics is only one step in the process of analyzing data. Analysis also involves preparing your data for analysis, reporting results, and discussing them. By the end of this chapter, you should be able to identify the steps in the process of analyzing and interpreting quantitative data, describe the process of preparing your data for analysis, identify the procedures for analyzing your data, learn how to report the result of analyze your data, and the last, describe how to interpret the result. What are the steps in the process of quantitative data analysis? There are several interrelated steps used in process of analyze quantitative data. Typically, you conduct a descriptive analysis of the data reporting measures of central tendency and variation. Then you conduct more sophisticated inferential analysis to test hypotheses, and you examine confidence intervals and effect size. The next step is to report the results that are found using tables, figures, and a discussion of the key result. Finally, you interpret the result from the data analysis. This consists of summarizing the result, comparing the result with past literature and theories, advancing the limitation of the study, and ending with suggestion for future research. How do you prepare the data for analysis? The first step for you will be to organize data for analysis. Preparing and organizing data for analysis in quantitative research consists of scoring the data and creating a codebook, determining the types of scores to use, selecting a computer program, inputting the data into the program for analysis, and querying the data. Score the data. Scoring data means that the researcher assigns a number value to each response category for each question on the instrument used to collect data. For instance, assumes that parents respond to a survey asking them to indicate their attitude about a choice of school for children in the school district. One question might be, please check the appropriate response to this statement. Students should be given an opportunity to select a school of their choice. Strongly agree, agree, undecided disagree, and strongly disagree. Determine the types of score to analyze. Before conducting an analysis of score, researchers consider what types of scores to use from their instrument. This is important because the type of score will affect how you enter data into a computer file for analysis. Single item scores is an individual score assigned to each question for each participant in your study. These scores provide a detailed analysis of each person's response to each question on an instrument. In one study, researchers asked individuals at a local school district meeting. Sum scores are the scores of an individual added over several questions that measure the same variable. Difference scores. Net or difference scores are scores in a quantitative study that represent a difference or change for each individual. Some gains may be more meaningful than others. A small change in high scores may be more useful than a large change in small score. Select a statistical program. Some gains may be more meaningful than others. A small change in high scores may be more useful than a large change in small scores. Here are some guidelines to follow when selecting a statistical program. Find a program with documentation about how to use the program. Programs often have tutorials so that you can easily learn the key features and practice them using sample data sets. Free tutorials are often available from websites. And ease of use is an important factor when selecting a program. Pull down menus and easy data entry make a program easy to use. And the last, look for a program that includes the type of statistic that you will use to answer your research question and hypothesis. Make sure that the program can analyze the amount of data in your database. Consider how many participants and the maximum number of variables that you will need in your analysis. A program should adequately accommodate missing data and provide some provision for handling the situation where some data are missing for a participant. Look for a program that has feasibility for data handling, can read data in many formats, and can read field import from spreadsheet or database. Look at a program with the capability to output graphs and tables that you can use in your research report. If you need to purchase the software program with the cost of the various program students, variants of program are available. Or although they may have limited statistical tests at minimal cost, and select a program that your campus uses so that you can find assistance to answer questions when they arise. Some programs may provide technical support to help answer questions, but it may be time-consuming and costly. Input data. Inputting the data occurs when the researcher transfers the data from the response on instrument to a computer for file for analysis. Clean and account for missing data. After entering data into the computer grid, you need to determine if there are errors in the data or missing data. Missing data may result when instrument data is lost. Individuals skip questions. Participants are absent when you collect observational data, or individual refers to complete a sensitive question. Cleaning the database. Cleaning the data is the process inspecting the data for scores or values that are outside the accepted range. Assessing the database for missing data. You need to examine your database for missing data. Missing data are data missing in the database because participants do not supply it. How do you analyze the data? After you prepare and organize the data, you are ready to analyze it. You analyze the data to address one of your research question or hypothesis. Question or hypothesis in quantitative research require that you describe trends in the data to a single variable or question on your instrument, compare two or more groups on the independent variable in terms of the dependent variable, relate two or more variables, and the last test hypothesis about the difference in the groups or the relationships of variables. Conduct descriptive analysis. How do you analyze the data to describe trends? You use statistics, the calculation of values based on number. Using a descriptive statistics test, descriptive statistic will help you summarize the overall trends or your tendencies in your data, provide an understanding of how varied your scores might be, and provide insight into where one scores stand in comparison with others. And measures of central tendency. Measures of central tendency are summary numbers that represent a single value in distribution of scores. They are expressed as an average score or the mean, the middle of a set of scores or the middle, or the most frequently occurring scores or the mode. Measure of variability. Variability indicates the spread of the scores in a distribution. Range, variance, and standard deviation all indicate the amount of variability in a distribution of scores. Conduct inferential analysis. Descriptive statistics help you analyze descriptive questions. However, when you compare groups or relate two or more variables, inferential analysis comes into play. The basic idea is to look at scores from a sample and use the result to draw inferences or make predictions about the population. Hypothesis testing. There are 5 steps in hypothesis testing. The first, identify your null and alternative hypothesis. And the second, set the level of significance or alpha level for rejecting the null hypothesis. The third, collect data. The fourth, compute the sample statistic. And the last, make a decision about rejecting or failing to reject the null hypothesis. Effect size identifies the strength of the conclusion about group differences or about the relationships among variables in a quantitative study. Determining effect size. Effect size identifies the strength of the conclusion about group differences or about the relationship among variables in a quantitative study. How do you report the result? When research concludes the statistic testing, they next turn to report representing the result in tables and figures and reporting result in a discussion. The selection should address or respond to question or hypothesis. Further, this section includes summarize of the data rather than the raw data. A result section includes tables that summarize statistic information, figures, charts, pictures, drawings that portray variables and their relationships. Detailed explanation about the statistical result. Tables. Researchers display data in tables that summarize statistical results to research question or hypothesis. Below are some guidelines for creating tables. Although you can present multiple statistical tests in one table, a general guideline is to present one table for each statistical test. Readers should be able to grasp easily the meaning of a table. It is important to know the level of statistical detail for descriptive and inferential statistical to report in tables. Authors typically report notes that qualify, explain, or provide additional information in the tables, which can be helpful to readers. Figure. Discern the difference between tables and figures is not always clear-cut. A table includes a summary of quantitative data, whereas a figure presents information in graphs or in visual pictures. Figures are suitable for visually presenting information in graphs and pictures in result section of studies. A good figure augments rather than duplicates the text, conveys only essential facts, omits visually distracting detail, is easy to read and understand, is consistent with and is prepared in the same style as similar figures in the same article, is carefully planned and prepared. Various types of figures are found in educational research studies. Bar Chart depict trends and distribution of data. Scatter plots illustrate the comparison of two different scores and how the scores decrease or differ from the mean. This information is useful for identifying outliers and upper or lower scaling effects of scores. Line graphs display the interaction between two variables in an experiment. Charts portray the complex relationships among variables in correlation research design. Present result. In a presentation of result, the researcher presents detailed information about the specific result of the descriptive and inferential statistical analysis. How do you interpret the result? After reporting and explaining the detailed result, researchers conclude a study by summarizing key findings, developing explanation for results, suggesting limitations in the research, and making recommendations for future inquiries. Summarize the major result. In the process of interpreting results, researchers first summarize the major findings and present the broader implications of the research for distinct audiences. A summary is a statement that reviews the major conclusion to each of the research questions or hypotheses. This summary is different from the result would include detail about statistical tests, significance level, and effect size. General conclusion. Overall, whether the hypotheses were rejected or whether the research question was supposed or not supposed. Explain why the result occurred. After this summary, researchers outline why the result turned out the way they did. Often this explanation is based on return to predictions made from a theory or conceptual framework that guide the development of research question or hypothesis. Advanced limitation. Researchers also advance limitations or weaknesses of the study that may have affected the result. Limitations are potential weaknesses or problems with the study identified by the researchers. Suggest future research. Researchers next advance future research direction based on the result of the present study. Future research direction are suggestions made by the researchers about additional studies that need to be conducted based on the result of the present research. These suggestions are a natural link to the limitation of a study, and they provide useful direction for new researchers and readers who are interested in exploring needed areas of inquiry or applying results to educational practice. Examining data analysis and interpretation in the parent involvement study. To obtain an overview of the process of quantitative data analysis and interpretation, we can turn once again to the parent involvement study by Deslange and Bertrand. With some advanced statistics used by the author, is it easy to focus on statistics and miss the overall pictures of analysis and interpretation unfolding in this study? Key ideas in the chapter. Identify the steps in the process of analyzing and interpreting quantitative data. The first, preparing your data for analysis. After collecting numeric scores on instrument or through observation, quantitative researchers need to prepare and organize their data for statistical analysis. Analyze the data. With the dataset built, the researcher began the process of analyzing the data to address the research question or hypothesis. And the third, analyzing the data. With the dataset built, The researcher began the process of analyzing the data to address the research question or hypothesis, interpreting the result. Finally, investigators conclude their research by summarizing the detailed result in general statements. They also provide explanation for their findings based on prior predictions made in the literature or in theories, and they contrast their result with past research. And thank you. I'm sorry for my mistake. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.